Hi everyone, Garth of Izar here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of misleading people like me into briefly hoping for a Star Trek themed metal band to have risen, only to be left somewhat cock-teased and blue-balled by the reality of things. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Whom Gods Destroy album, Insanium. I can remember, back in the bygone days of Last.fm actually being a website people actively used, that my brief moment of quasi-fame was my creation of a new genre tag on the ill-fated supergroup of yore, Adrenaline Mob. I described it as midlife crisis metal, and I stand by that damning indictment, and quite frankly I'm somewhat proud of the fact that this is still one of the most popular tags used to describe the band on that website. I'm sure I don't need to tell you what I mean by that tag, you are after all intelligent and creative people, but I was rather hoping that I could leave Adrenaline Mob as the sole standard bearer of this dubious honour. Unfortunately, it has come to my attention that another group of veteran musicians have curiously decided that they want to stake a claim in this landscape. And while the cringe-inducingly titled Whom Gods Destroy don't quite manage to square up as a true contender to the crown of the most midlife of all crises, there are more than a few moments to be found on the equally cringe-inducingly titled album of Insanium to make even Adrenaline Mob fear for their spot at the top of the pile. On paper, I love this band. Everyone involved here is brilliant. I love Derek Sherinian, I love Bumblefoot, I love Dino. But then I start to realise that this is honestly just Sons of Apollo under a new banner, and I remember that their music left me feeling kind of cold and indifferent as well. Now, it's not even that this is bad music. Everything is well put together, immaculately produced, and not a single person involved is sloppy sounding or untalented. It's just that the sum of the parts of everything here is just perpetually kind of dull. There's a lot of noodling, some solos, some riffs, some grrr vocals, and some heavy fucking metal. So why do I find myself checking my watch to find that I'm only a third of the way through the album? I don't know. Sometimes I listen to new records and they feel so overthought, so overanalyzed, and so overprepared that for all of the band's good intentions, all their enthusiasm and excitement for the project, I can't help but feel that they've gotten somewhat lost in their own hype about what they're doing, that they've forgotten to write something cohesive and interesting, preferring to settle instead on an album that largely consists of everyone taking turns in a "we look what I can do" contest of progressive musicianship masturbation. Am I being harsh here? Yeah, honestly I probably am. But for all the raw talent on display here, with some seriously impressive flourishes on a technical level, the music honestly left me feeling so little emotionally that I just couldn't find myself feeling enthused or amped up by almost any of it. The lyrics in place scream of juvenile angst, the riffs at times carry the weight of bands that have done this kind of edgy metal 100 times before and 100 times better, and the whole experience felt so conveyor belt and factory produced that I couldn't help but equate this to the progressive metal equivalent of a Big Mac and fries. It's fine, it's reasonably satisfying on a basic level, but it lacks excitement, it lacks flair and originality. There's no real personality here, and if you scratch beyond the surface level, you'll find that there's really nothing much to this past its riffing and swagger-laden vocal hooks. But now, look, I'm not here to kick a dying horse or anything. This is, after all, just how I feel about the music presented here. And I appreciate, at least from the existing discourse, that I'm an outlier with my opinions. Now, I'm not denying or rejecting this album completely, I just don't feel that it's doing enough interesting or new things to warrant me spending more than a few cursory spins with it. So, what do I actually like about this album? Honestly, I still like quite a bit of what's going on here. Dino is an absolutely monstrously brilliant vocalist, channeling the likes of Russell Allen, Jorn Lander, and all those other hyper-masculine, powerfully executed vocalists that can be found out there. His measured control and direct full-frontal vocal delivery is spectacular. There are honestly very few vocalists out there who can demonstrate such a measured inflection and powerful command of the room. He's never not a delight to listen to, even if the lyrics themselves can be a little cringe at times. Derek is still as excellent on the keys as I expected him to be. His solo album from last year, Vortex, was a ton of fun, and he's bringing his virtuosity in spades to this release with some of his signature sounds and styles in full swing, serving as a constant reminder that he was and probably always will be my favourite keyboardist that Dream Theater ever had. Bumblefoot, again, as always, absolutely killing it on the guitar with some incredible riffing and some blistering solos that really serve to remind you precisely why his presence on this album is such a talking point, and the rhythm section of Yas Nomura on bass and Bruno Valverde on drums rounds out the lower end of the album nicely, with some fantastic thick and chunky grooves to be found throughout the experience. So yeah, everyone here is phenomenal at their respective craft. It's incredibly hard to pick fault at the individual elements on offer here, as to describe anyone here as incapable or substandard is objectively incorrect. It's just, I don't know, something about the sum of the whole parts just isn't clicking for me. Now, I've tried to figure out what my personal beef is with the album. I think largely it can be summed up by the fact it's just not for me. It's not metal enough for me to pick this over something like, say, Killer Be Killed, nor is it prog enough for me to seek this out over something like Symphony X. There's some good ideas on here, hell, even some great ones, and the band really shines at their best when they embrace something a little bit more beyond their progressive dude bro metal frontage. Find My Way Back is a fantastic, low-tempo, explorative piece that's really stuck with me. The Decision is full of huge sounds and breathing space amidst the metal, and the closing title track is once again packed full of exciting and interesting sounds that mark out some of the brief flashes of genius that the band is definitely capable of. For me though, I don't know, there's far too much in between that just screams of bland, forgettable, overt technicality for technicality's sake. I've been hearing so much praise for the 3.5 minute long instrumental piece Hypernova 158, but honestly I find it so mindlessly showboaty and technical that it simply doesn't hit. There's no soul, no passion and love to it, just wanky instrumental technicalities that just becomes white noise to me after less than half its running time. And honestly, I think that's the biggest sin with some of the songs on here. Some of these are pushing to the 6 or 7 minute range, and mostly it feels like so they can insert yet another soulless and uninteresting guitar or keyboard solo that serves no other purpose than for showing off and padding the runtime. The album clocks in at around 53 minutes long, and honestly, I've listened to albums that are literally twice this length that feel shorter. The padding is excessive, and if Whom Gods Destroy had trimmed a lot of the excess here and there, concentrated on making shorter, more precise, less bloated songs, and allowed this to come in at around, I don't know, the 40-minute range, then I would probably be a lot more forgiving of the record as a whole. So, what else can I say about Whom Gods Destroy's Insanium? Yeah, I know, I'm definitely on the outside looking in with this one, who boy. I'm quite certain I'm going to be told how I'm listening to it wrong, or I just don't get it. And you know what, you're probably right. I just don't get it. I felt that this was certain to be a smash hit for me, and I was in fact really looking forward to this one. The band does have some of my favourite musicians of all time in it, so of course I was hyped for what this congregation would come out with. For me though, this at its worst feels like a Wish.com version of Dream Theater's Systematic Chaos, with all of the cringe-inducing edginess that came with it, but with none of the heart that managed to make the record still shine brightly in places, despite dross like The Dark Eternal Night and Forsaken threatening to pull it into the mire of mediocrity. Insanium is not a terrible or even a bad record though. There's a lot of talent here that manages to prop things up in spite of my own personal misgivings. It's just that this isn't an album for me. It's not something I will actively be coming back to, but it's also not enough for me to dismiss this new gathering entirely. I still remain hopeful that for their sophomore, they'll bring down the excess, focus on what makes them work well together, and craft something of the grandiosity that their name will reflect. For me, I can at least recommend that you stream this one. I'm certain that this band will find an audience that loves them, and I really do wish I could tell you that I was one of those people, but for me, I can only dutifully shelve this one for now, and maybe return to tracks like Find My Way Back once in a while to remind myself that there might be hope for me and this band yet to come. This, guys, is all of course just my opinion of the album as you know, so if you have listened to Insanium, please tell me what you thought of the record in the comments down below. If you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do share it around with anyone else who you think would possibly enjoy it. And as always, please do consider subscribing for more content. My link tree will be left down below as well, where you find all the various places to find me on social media. So please do drop me a follow if you want to see more about my daily life and adventures outside of YouTube. But until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures pretty odd.